Oi, oi. All right. Oasis have been broken up for 14 years now. That's almost as long as the time between the first record coming out in 94 and their split in 2009. And in that time, it's tough to know what they've done more of, insult each other or answer questions about a potential reunion. Separate to that though, both the brothers Gallagher have released a fair amount of solo material, and I thought it'd be fun to stoke some, no doubt, very respectful and thoughtful debate by ranking their solo albums in a tier list. We're going to go from most recent release to the earliest, starting with this year's Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds Council Skies record. Now, this is the fourth High Flying Birds album after quite a long break, which just featured a few EP releases and compilations. For me, this was a big return to form with some of Noel's strongest songs in years. Yes, it has a touch of the adult contemporary production that seems to be like Marmite to a lot of fans. I literally recall one comment saying shite music to shop at Waitrose to or something, and I see that, to be honest. But I also think Dead to the World and Easy Now could go to toe with some of his best. For me, this was an A-tier record. Next up, we have most recently from Liam, Come On You Know. Now, I have a real soft spot for Liam's solo career. He's managed to strike a balance between his cocky, arrogant persona and the down-to-earth older gent of rock and roll who's been humbled as many times as he's been on top of the mountain. His output is now all about working with great songwriters and producers to generate straight-up meat and potatoes British rock and roll to fill Radio X playlists and get people down to a festival or an arena to hear a few of those, but a lot more Oasis classics. And I kind of respect that. Come On You Know, on a production level, it could be argued achieves what Noel has been striving for, dabbling in different sounds to push the envelope a bit, but crucially not losing the rock and roll spirit. The production strikes that perfect balance, and there are some great tunes like Diamond in the Dark, Everything's Electric, and Don't Go Halfway. Every track here sounds sonically good, and because of that, I really want to rate this one quite high, like a B, but I just have to be honest that despite its high points, the songwriting just doesn't always hit the mark. It was not meant to be, and I'm Free. I'm looking at them kind of mainly as a marker of that, so it's going to go in the C category for me. We then have the third High Flying Birds album, Who Built the Moon. Now, I know it has its defenders, but to me, this album is utter bollocks. It is the midlife crisis in album form. I really appreciate Noel's willingness to push himself into new territory, and I understand it's what he needs to do. I like the influences he pulls from, but if there's one thing I don't want to hear, it's Noel fucking Gallagher attempting a Kanye or Marvin Gaye approach on his songs. I think I would happily listen to any Liam tune over the songs on this record. Okay, that's maybe a little bit harsh because I like maybe Black and White Sunshine and the title track, but other than that, it's music to go to the school fete to. It's just not for me. I contemplated giving this a D for a second out of respect and to give some credit to the artistic risk here, but you know what, fuck it, it's going in E. I just don't listen to it. I would also chuck in all of the kind of crappy disco EPs in there too. So after that, we then have Liam's second, Why Me, Why Not? This was a very much like a fast sequel to the first LG solo record, both sonically and songwriting and arrangement wise, but to me it's kind of a bit of a diminishing return to the first. While songs like Once and the title track are decent, as well as a couple of Beatlesy moments like Meadow, I think this album is overall pretty lazy. Shockwave is about as phone it in as you get for an upbeat rock single, and Now That I've Found You as well, similar sort of thing. I also just found the vague digs at an unnamed person who is fake or has betrayed Liam or he just otherwise doesn't like, just trying too hard to fuel the whole brothers feud narrative. It feels hollow on this record in comparison to the first one, where those digs felt kind of a bit more natural and earned. I think because the songs just aren't there, the narrative begins to kind of grate, like a bit of a WWE soap opera. This is, to me, it's in the D territory, and one of the reasons I had to put Moon so low, because ultimately, despite its issues, I put this on given a choice between the two every single time, even though it's not great. So after that, we have Chasing Yesterday, Noel's second record, and in stark contrast to Liam's second go round, this pretty much nailed the landing of the follow-up. It's got both familiar bangers like Lock All the Doors and You Know We Can't Go Back, while also pushing the boat out a bit with The Right Stuff and Riverman, and also managing to find some kind of like unique middle ground between those two modes with The Ballad of the Mighty Eye and Heat of the Moment. I don't think all the songs are created equal here, like Girl with X-Ray Eyes and The Mexican don't really get me going in the same way, but on the whole, this one to me is an A tier record. So now we're on to Liam's debut, As You Were. This was a complete surprise to me when it came out, and I actually think this record and Liam's whole comeback is a beautifully orchestrated bit of music management and PR. You know, if you think back to before this album came out, at this point in the UK, before As You Were, Liam was widely believed to be, you know, the arrogant, difficult Gallagher brother. People felt he was a bit of a loudmouth and a yob, and definitely I heard his talents called into question many, many a time. But in 2017, Liam emerged after a lot of quiet years and the relative failure of BDI, a bit of a humbled hero. He was still hilarious and hot-headed, but his new public persona had like a glint of humility, something that grounded him. And he'd also clearly been looking after his voice, which from then and until now sounds way better than it did in most of the 2000s, and was committed to actually putting on a good show, turning up on time, and giving the people what they wanted. Certainly playing his own tunes, but fully recognizing that it's Oasis songs that put him in this position, and that's what people generally want to hear. All of this combined with the fact that As You Were is actually great, literally steered the huge ship of Liam's public perception, and I think in the UK's general opinion, he's gone from like a lager lout to kind of a national treasure. And just as Liam made no bones about playing the Noel-penned Oasis tracks live, he made no denial about the fact that he does his best work on record when working with other great songwriters. Andrew Wyatt, among others, put some of his best songs behind Liam that he's had since even maybe before Oasis split. But what is interesting is that this record, compared to the others, actually features a few Liam-written tunes that are some of the best on here. Bold and Greedy Soul are just as great as the smash of Wall of Glass, if you ask me. You know, it's not Morning Glory, but this is really solid and it's fun. As comeback records go, you couldn't really get more successful. It kicked off a solo career that's since seen him play to some crowds similar in scale to when Oasis were at their height. If we were ranking only Liam stuff here, it would go in A, but ultimately we are putting this on a scale with Noel's output, and while I think the singles might go harder than anything on the older brothers' discography, I can't in good conscience put it in the same level, so we're going to go B, but it is a great record. Yeah, so finally and predictably we have Noel's first High Flying Birds record. You know, this first solo release from either brother came pretty hot on the heels of the 2009 breakup, with the self-titled debut hitting just a hair over 2 years later in 2011. I could only imagine how seething the remaining members of Oasis were at that point, kicking about under the name of BDI. When they first heard banger after banger on this record. I'm not sure whether Noel had been conspiring to go solo prior to the split, but certainly judging by the quality level on this first album, either breaking away from Liam brought forth a short burst of inspiration not seen since the 90s, or he'd been quietly setting aside these nuggets during the writing of latter era Oasis albums for years. Either way, High Flying Birds is an incredible debut with 10 absolutely killer songs, and at least one, for me it's If I Had a Gun, that sits on the highest peaks of all Gallagher songwriting. Not only did this deliver anthemic Britpop that fans had come to expect, it brought along some really interesting and expansive production, as with the cinematic scope of Everybody's on the Run, you know, a kind of French carnival thing on The Death of You and Me, and the dark kind of housey spirit of What a Life. For me, this is absolutely at the top of the tower when it comes to the solo albums of the Gallagher brothers, going very comfortably in the S tier. So there we have it, a full ranking of the solo Gallagher records. Swing those handbags, hurl that abuse in the comments, let me know how you really feel and tell me your favourites. You can check out some similar rankings in the description below, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.